11 games on the NBA slate tonight. That's kind of crazy. And thank the high heavens, we have DraftKings contributors Garion, Thorne, and Matt Meiselman, along with RotoWire's Nick Whalen here to help you build some money-making lineups. Okay, dudes, real quick. Celtics proving all three of you wrong last night, but hold up. How about over 244.5 points hitting between the Hornets and T-Wolves? 'Twas a thing of beauty, Nick.
It sure was. It certainly was, and it did not look like it was going to hit for most of the night. I think the game was in like the 80s or even the low 90s at the end of the third quarter, but we were blessed with overtime. The gods were looking out for us. Matt, I can't believe you went under on that. I think we were called by God to take the over in this one, and he made it happen.
Absolute coward, Matt. You really are.
It got there by 1 point despite overtime. I didn't bet on the game. I'm happy I had nothing. That would have been too much stress, win or lose. I'm happy to not be involved.
Yeah, Gare Bear, you were sweating it out, weren't you, bud?
Oh, no. I knew overtime was implied. If you looked at the trends, it was pretty clear that game was going to overtime. I mean, why would the total be that high if it wasn't going to overtime? That's the kind of question you have to ask yourself.
Exactly. By the way, guys, Karl Anthony Towns with nearly 69 DK fantasy points in that one. Garion, he in Minnesota hosting your Raptors tonight, I believe. So who's worthy of building around at the center spot? Also the Joker topping all salaries at 12-4.
I mean, it might just be Towns. We've got to wait on a lot of news on this particular slate. I mean, there could even be like some rogue rest days out there. It is a lot of these teams' last game before the All-Star break. So this slate could be a weird one, but I do think as things stand right now, Towns is underpriced at just 10,000. A lot of this though does ride on the health and status of Anthony Edwards, because Towns' role changes in significant ways when Edwards is unavailable. So far this season, he basically goes from a 28% usage rate playing alongside Edwards to a 34.2% usage rate when Edwards is off the court. He averages 1.5 DraftKings points per minute when Edwards is unavailable. So if he does sit out, which I would think is the likelier scenario of him playing or not playing, I mean, relatively, I don't want to say severe ankle sprain, but like an ankle injury on the first night of a back-to-back, 1 game removed from the All-Star break. I think Edwards probably ends up sitting tonight. And then there's just the fact that, while the Raptors are an above-average defensive team, they just don't have the size. They don't have a singular player with the size who can handle someone like Karl Anthony Towns. So I think really this is a great matchup for him, and it could be even better if Edwards is unavailable.
Okay, Nick, what are you doing at center?
Yeah, I mean, you got plenty of options on this 11-game slate. Jokic, Towns, Vucevic, AD, assuming he plays, Siakam, Sabonis, Nurkic. I mean, there's a ton of directions that you could go in. I will definitely have some Jokic exposure just to cover my bases there. And Gary made a lot of good points about Karl Anthony Towns. I, too, would be surprised if Anthony Edwards plays in this game. I mean, he's got to rest up for the Rising Stars game this weekend. Obviously, that's top of mind for him. I think I like Vucevic the most of that group based on the price. You can get him at 9,900 against Sacramento. The Kings have been bad against centers all season. That does not change whatsoever with the arrival of Sabonis. And I would even consider Sabonis on the other side of that matchup. Chicago, too, has struggled to defend centers this season. You're saving $1,000 if you go with Sabonis. He's at 8,900. The Kings let me down in a pretty big way against Brooklyn the other night. Basically no-showed that game, despite being road favorites against a team that had lost 11 straight. But I think they probably lose at Chicago tonight, but it should be a much better fantasy night for Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah, Vucevic, by the way, 54-plus DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4 games. Gets that weak front court of the Kings. Matt, who's your center?
Well, I feel like I have to make this pick now because this would be the first segment we've had where this player wasn't mentioned as the center pick, and it's Pascal Siakam. I feel like we're always talking about Siakam, but for tonight specifically, the Wolves just played an overtime game last night. The team could be a little tired. It probably hurts their defense just a bit. It's a back-to-back either way, so that definitely makes it worse. But Fred VanVleet's on the injury report, and if he doesn't play, then we just have to take a hard look at all of the Raptors. So this is a slate where I think a lot of guys could benefit from certain players being out. Siakam benefits a lot if VanVleet doesn't play. With the season being close to the All-Star break at this point, I think it just kind of makes sense that guys that are banged up just take it easy. You don't want to get a serious injury right before the break. This is the last game before the All-Star game for a lot of teams. So it kind of makes sense. I think Garion said it with Edwards. With VanVleet, I think they just take it easy with him. And then if he doesn't play, Siakam has a lot more usage and just a lot more to do.